This is one of the main reasons why I don't like these newer cars. This is a 2013 Buick Encore, or Encore, however you say it. And I'm replacing the serpentine belt. And you gotta remove this motor mount. And that tensioner down there. You gotta loosen it up. Of course, just like a normal car, but man, this is stupid. It's nowhere near as easy as like a LS engine or any other typical V8. And you can't even, these screws, when you're removing the motor mount, you can't take them all the way out and then just install the motor mount like onto the block, because then you can't get the screws in because it hits right here. So you got to put it in with the screws and have them kind of hanging out a little bit so you could wiggle it around in there and move it around and position it properly. It's kind of stupid. Stuff barely fits in here. So I got the engine supported by the jack right on the oil pan. Of course, you got to do that before you take the motor mount off. And then you got to loosen your tension right there on your tensioner. It's got those weird bolts right there, those 6-point star type. They're called E-sockets. It's like a E15, I believe. It's an E15, I believe, for that. And I hope I'm just incredibly ignorant and there's an easier way to replace this belt, but I don't think there is. I think you got to remove the motor mount, which is crazy. It ain't that hard, but it's a lot of extra steps compared to a traditional older car where all you need is really like a ratchet and the belt. I was struggling to remove this part here, which is like the motor mount. The other motor mount goes on to here. All I had to do was jack the engine up a little bit, and then I was able to get this out. This goes on here to the block, and then your motor mount goes from the vehicle to here. So yeah, if you're having difficulty getting this out, just jack the engine up a little bit more so you get some nice clearance. Everything's real tight in here. It's stupid. This thing is so tight. It took my buddy holding the tensioner down and me forcing that belt on with the flathead, and both of us barely got it on there. That was crazy. That was stupid. Who designed this thing? Wow. I also highly recommend you guys spray some WD-40 on whichever pulley you're putting the belt over. I chose this one right here. What is this, water pump, I think? Yeah. I chose that pulley right there, and I had to spray a little WD-40 just to help the belt slide on there. Man, it was tough. Before you install the motor mount bracket on the engine, make sure you got all 3 bolts in. The 2 side ones and the bottom one. Or at least make sure you don't put the top bolts in. Make sure all the bolts are in first, because if you put the top ones in, then you can't get the bottom one in. So make sure everything's loose, nothing's in yet. Then you could go ahead and install it once all 3 bolts are in there like that. You could go ahead and start tightening the bolts down. Now we have our actual motor mount. Gotta lower the engine down until everything lines up. The screws ain't going in properly, they're going in at an angle. Now they thread easily in by hand. I'm gonna put my nuts on over here. Made in USA. I always like to come back and check by hand, make sure they are tight. Now I gotta figure out why there's oil on the cap, on the exhaust.